بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We're in the section of Noon Saakinah and Tanween in Tuhfah al-Atfaal, or an introduction or madkhal to Tuhfah al-Atfaal. And we had previously discussed an introduction to At-Tanween, the chapter of Tanween and Noon Saakinah, and the first of the four main rules, which was Idghaam. So now we're going to look at the second of the four main rules, which the author mentioned, which is entitled in Arabic Idghaam. And as we're going to see, Idghaam has two types. That's why we said there are four main rules, but Idghaam is split into two. So actually, if we look at it tafseelan, in detail, we see that there are 5 rules of Noon Saakinah and Tanween. There are 5 rules. Those rules being the 4 main rules, but Idghaam is split into 2. So then that would make 5. So our similar questions that we asked for Idhar, we're going to ask for Idghaam. The first question when we spoke about Idhar was, what does it mean? So Idghaam means to put something into something else, to mix. Or idkhalu shay fi shay, to put something into something else. If I was to put my hand into my sleeve, for example, yeah. So for us it means that you put a letter into another letter, in basic terms. That's not the exact definition, but basic terms. So that's the first question. The second question is, when does it happen? When do we apply the rule of Idghaam if we see a Noon Saakinah or a Tanween? And the answer is, if after the Noon Saakinah or the Tanween comes one of the following 6 letters. Don't write anything yet. I'll give you time to write this down. Just whatever I'm saying that's not in the book that you feel elucidates or explains something, you can just jot it. But otherwise, just pay attention to what I'm saying. And as for what's in the book, you're going to have time to copy it, inshallah. So when do we apply Idghaam? If after the Noon Saakinah or the Tanween comes one of the following 6 letters. The letters are the letter Ya, Ra, Lam, or Mim, Lam, Waw, and Noon. And we've put them in this order as came in the poem. Yarmaluna or Yarmuluna. Yarmaluna with a fatha on the Mim. Or sometimes you see in the books as Yarmuluna with a Dhamma on the Mim. So the 6 letters of Idghaam as a main rule are found in this one word, Yarmaluna. So then the next question is, okay, what happens? What happens when one of these 6 letters comes after Noon Saakinah or Tanween? Then the Noon sound will be mixed into the following letter, i.e. the letter that follows it. But note that there are 2 ways of merging the Noon sound into the following letter. So there are 2 ways. You can either mix the Noon sound into the letter without the ghunnah, or you mix it with the ghunnah. So do you remember when we spoke about the Noon Saakinah, before we started the chapter, we said 4 questions. One of them was, what happens when you pronounce the Noon sound, yeah? We said there are 2 things, which were, your tongue touches a specific place and there is a nasal sound. So we can say that the Noon sound is made up of 52 points, so 50-50 each, yeah? 50% of it is the tongue touching a certain place, and 50% is the nasal sound. So when we mix the Noon sound into the following letter, sometimes we'll mix it and the nasal sound will still remain. So 50% is gone into the next letter, and 50% the whole nasal sound remains. With me? Yeah. And sometimes we mixed it 100%. So the tongue doesn't touch the place and there is no nasal sound left. Okay? So for example, if I was to say Man ya'mal, Man ya'mal, there is a Noon Saakinah there, right? Man. And after it comes one of these 6 letters of Yarmaluna. Which one? Yeah. So if I read it now, Man ya'mal, do you hear any of the Noon sound? No? Okay, what was the noon sound? It's the tongue touching a specific place and a ghunna. So when I say it, do you hear any of those two things? May ya'mal. Okay, so what's this thing? May. What's that sound?
Oh, it's
Ghunna. So some of the noon sound has remained, right?
But you're not touching it.
Yes. So is idgham? The idgham, the mixing has happened with the tongue not touching the noon, but there's still something left. So it's not full idgham. 50% has still remains. You can hear it, right? The nasal sound can still be heard, right? May ya'mal, and this is for approximately 2 harakat. What about if I say min rabbika? Min rabbika. If I say it together, there's a noon sound, noon sakina there, right? Min, and it's followed by a ra, which is one of the letters of yarmaluna. So if I say mir rabbika, has anything remained from the noon? No. The tongue is not touching the noon place, and the ghunna is also not there. So this is called full idgham, because all of the noon has gone. In the way the ghunna remained, the previous one, there was 50% of the noon was still there, the sound, right? So the first one, the first example, is called idgham with ghunna. May ya'mal, there's still a ghunna sound, right? If I close my nose, may, that's the ghunna, that's how it knows from ghunna. So this is called idgham, mixing whilst keeping the ghunna, with the ghunna. And the second example, mir rabbik, is idgham without ghunna. So now these 6 letters of idgham are split into 2 groups. Those letters that have an idgham with ghunna, and those letters that have idgham without ghunna. So the letters of idgham with ghunna, with that nose sound, are 4. They are the letter ya, noon, mim, and waw. They are in the poem yanmu. Yanmu. That's why we put them in that order here. Yanmu. So if after the noon sakina or the tanween comes one of these 4 letters, then we're going to make idgham with ghunna. Like min waraihim. Min waraihim. We don't say min waraihim. Min waraihim. We say min wara. So there's still a nasal sound, right? Your tongue is getting used to the getting your makhraj here is going to the waw. Miu, miu. You're going straight to the next letter. Miu. It's just that you're still keeping the ghunna. So idgham, your tongue and your mouth gets ready for the next letter straight away. The only difference is that you're keeping the ghunna here. Okay? So in these 4, you're keeping a ghunna sound for 2 harakat. The other 2 letters are idgham without ghunna. Idgham bila ghunna or bi ghayri ghunna. And these are in the letter, if after noon sakin or tanween comes the letter lam or the letter ra. So for example, waylun, waylun. The lam has dhammatain, right? Waylun. And the next letter is a lam, li. Likulli humaza, for example. You say here, waylulli, waylulli. You don't say waylunli. Wrong, that would be idhar. You don't say waylulli. Yeah? But you make idgham, you mix the noon sound from the tanween into the lam straight away without any ghunna. Waylulli kulli. Thus far, or so far, is it clear? Okay. طيب. Now there's an exception here. Okay. If after, there's an exception to the idgham with ghunna. If after a noon sakina comes a letter of idgham with ghunna within the same word, within the same word, then there will be no idgham. There will be no idgham there. It will be called idhar. And this only happens with 4 words in the Quran. So after Noon Sakina, like if I tell you the word dunya, is there Noon Sakina in the word dunya? Good. Dun, right? Dal, Dhamma, Noon Sukun, Dun. And after the word, after the letter Noon Sakina here, what comes?
Yeah.
Ya. What's the normal ruling for ya after Noon Sakina? Idghaam bi ghunna. But here, because it's in the same word, dunya is one word, and the ya is part of it, because it's in the same word, you pronounce it clearly. You don't make idgham. You don't say dunya. You say dunya. The other word, sinwan. Sinwan. Is there Noon Sakina in there?
Yeah.
Sin. And it's followed by what? Wow. Good. Wow is one of the letters of idgham bi ghunna or not?
Yeah.
Yanmu is one of the letters. Good. So normally the rule would be to make idgham bi ghunna. But because it's in the same word, you pronounce it clearly. The third word is the word qinwan. Qinwan. Is there Noon Sakin in that word? Naam. Qaf, kasra, Noon Sukun, qin. And then you have, what's after that?
Wow.
Wow again. And wow is one of the letters of idgham bi ghunna. So normally you'd make idgham, but in this case, because it's in the same word, you pronounce it clearly. And the last word, bunyan. Bunyan. Is there Noon Sakina there? Bunyan. Ba, Dhamma, Noon Sukun, bun. And after it comes
Yeah.
ya, which is normally letter of idgham bi ghunna. But because it's in the same word, after Noon Sakina, it's in the same word, then it will not be mixed. It will be pronounced clearly. And this is why the Shaykh says, إلا إذا كان بكلمة فلا تدغم كدنيا ثم سنوان تلا. Except if they come, if the Noon Sakina and the letter of idgham bi ghunna come in one word, then don't make idgham. Yeah. It only happens with 4 words. Okay, we stop there for this chapter. Write down what you need to write down, and then we answer any questions.